Hi there, I am Zanele Ntuli and I'm the chairperson of the African Business Leaders Forum.
And I am Tabo Adbazwi, the convener of Influence Africa.
And together, Influence Africa and African Business Leaders Forum presents to you a brand new and exciting show about doing business in Africa.
You know, Zanele, I'm really so excited about the content that we've got for today's show, because we're going to be showcasing some very interesting initiatives that are transforming the enabling business environment in Africa.
Also, we're going to share with you the work of the African Business Leaders Forum and the Trade and Investment Exchange that is happening between South Africa and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
So should we get started with the show?
Oh yes.
Viewers, firstly, we want to introduce you to an interesting new initiative that's driven by the African Union and the New Partnership for Africa's Development, NEPAD. Now, this initiative is about strengthening the enabling environment for transportation and logistics in Africa.
Let's check it out.
Sure, let's go there.
Infrastructure, and in particular transport and logistics infrastructure, is cardinal in the development and conduct of trade amongst nations, a critical contributor to economic growth and development. In Africa, however, poor and weak transport infrastructure is one of the key reasons that the continent's intra-trade pales into insignificance compared to its global trade. In the past decade, the total percentage of Africa's formal intra-trade accounted for a meager 11% of total international trade. By comparison, Europe's intra-trade volume stands at 62%. Lack of modern transport and logistics infrastructure translate to higher transportation costs, which in turn lead to the decline of competitiveness, ramping up trading costs. Inadequate transport infrastructure is the major reason for intra-regional economic disparities in Africa, as landlocked nations tend to face longer transportation turnaround times, higher costs, and consequently lower GDP growth rates. In 2012, the African Union adopted an action plan for boosting intra-African trade and the establishment of a continental free trade area, in a quest to deepen the continent's market integration and increase trade volumes among African countries. Also, the African Union adopted the Programme for Infrastructure Development in Africa, PIDA, with the vision to vastly improve the connectedness of African capitals and major centers with modern paved roads and modern rail systems, satisfy demand of the African regional transport infrastructure network routes at lowered economic costs, prioritizing landlocked countries and ensuring minimal damage to the environment. Develop modern, world-class corridors that include gateway ports and air transport services that stand up to the most rigorous of best practice standards in cost, efficacy, reliability, and safety. Move Africa is a NEPAD pioneered initiative focusing on improving logistics on the continent. It bridges the gap between infrastructure and industrialization under the African Union's framework, accelerating industrial development of Africa. AIDA, Move Africa, aims at harnessing the power of government-private sector partnership to unshackle the African continent from its current state of sluggish intra-trade. Move Africa envisages an approach that combines infrastructure development with the enabling policy frameworks to develop cross-border transportation infrastructure that will vastly improve intra-trade and boost economic growth. Through this initiative, Africa will drastically transform transboundary transport and logistics sector by driving down the cost of transportation, improving logistics efficiency for manufacturers operating in the continent, and thus complement the work stream of the Continental Business Network, CBN. NEPAD aims to build on past successes in this regard and the recognition that intra-African trade and investment is dependent on sound transport logistics corridors and networks. This calls for a private sector-led transport and logistics initiative with political support. It is for this reason that Move Africa is to be driven as the transport backbone of the CBN and simultaneously aligned to the action plan and accelerate the growth in size and benefits of trade for the attainment of sustainable growth and development. Invest locally, connect globally.
Wow, just imagine the possibilities of having an optimal logistics and transportation infrastructure in Africa.
You know, this will certainly make our economies to be more competitive, but at the same time, it will certainly improve the level of intra-African trade, which, as you can see, sits at a mere 11% of our total trade volume.
You know, Thabo, we need to change that picture.
Certainly.
You know, and it's long overdue.
I agree.
And talking about intra-Africa trade, the African Business Leaders Forum, otherwise known as ABLF, is an initiative that was started to support the growth of African economies.
So let's share with you what this initiative is all about. Happy viewing.
ABLF. It was birthed out of a conference of key business leaders as well as political, academics, youth, and civil leaders from across Africa who gathered in Sandton, Johannesburg in December 2015. It was launched by His Excellency, the President of South Africa, Mr. Jacob Zuma. The guiding principles are found in the African Union Agenda 2063. It was established as Davos of Africa to bring high-level business leaders and investors in each region of our continent. It has a mission to promote Africa to sustainably take economic leadership in its resources. The vision of ABLF is to see Africa sustainably increasing its economic potential through increased intra-Africa trade and investment.
I wish Africans could understand where Africans come from and where and why we are here in the form in which we are, and where do we need to go. We need to define our destiny ourselves, and we must reach it in our lifetime. I think this organization you're establishing, you could develop an annual coming together of the African business people to discuss the problems of the continent.
As I said, the future of the successful businessmen and entrepreneurs is inextricably intertwined with the future and success of the marginalized and the poor. The same applies for the economies of Africa. The future of South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Egypt, Algeria, their future is inextricably intertwined with the future of Africa.
ABLF has appointed the following ambassadors to advance ABLF's mission and objectives. ABLF, promoting intra-Africa trade, developing entrepreneurs, and bringing investment to Africa.
Interestingly, the African Business Leaders Forum is facilitating a series of trade and investment exchanges between South Africa and the Democratic Republic of Congo. With a population of over 77 million people and a growth rate sitting at 6.9% as at 2015, there is a lot of business opportunities in the DRC in areas such as health, hospitality, mining, agriculture, waste management, housing, and financial services, to mention a few.
You know, as part of the planning committee for this trade and investment exchange, the African Business Leaders Forum had some recent meetings with the Minister of Finance in Kinshasa, and it was very successful and will lead to a trade and investment symposium which will be happening in Johannesburg in October 2016.
You know, the DRC is such an amazing country, yeah?
It is.
We had so much fun.
Oh, we did.
Is it okay to show them a little bit of the
Oh,
lighter side?
no. What happens in Kinshasa remains in Kinshasa.
Please, just a little bit more.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, viewers, brace yourself for this. Happy viewing.
Hey, Fatimata, Jomo Pemi, Amura moi, Zulu Sulu.
Hi, Influence Africa. We're having a wonderful time. See what we're looking at. It's so beautiful. This is Africa for you.
Yes.
C'est pas gentil, oh ma belle. Et même devant les gens, tu perds la tête, c'est pas gentil, oh ma belle. Et Fatimata, Jomo Pemi. Ouh, amour à moi, Zulu Solo. Eh, Fatimata, Teddy Lolita et Bibi. Ouh, amour à Bibi. Baila, baila, eba, eba. Je suis touché, Fatimata, à cause de sa beauté. Fatimata. Une fille comme elle.
Non, 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 République démocratique du Congo.
Le Valtine de Yamoussoukro, quand elle arrive à Dakar.
Show. See. You really showed them in the DRC.
Oh, but we had fun.
Yes,
That's
we
what
did.
is nice,
We did.
you know.
We
But
did.
anyway, now today's spotlights will focus on the competitiveness of the small, medium enterprises in the oil and gas sector in Africa.
The challenges facing entrepreneurs and small firms in Africa are varied and many. These include lack of financial support, weak economic infrastructure, and lack of policy coherence for small business need to be addressed if small firms are not to fall far behind their counterparts in other parts of the world. Therefore, African governments should encourage inter-firm relationships between small firms and large buyers. Efforts should be made to help small firms to meet international product and process standards. To establish a strong presence in the global marketplace, the number of small African export firms has to increase. Participation in international trade opens up new markets for these firms. On this episode, we look at an African business that specializes in the production of petroleum products. We see how they're overcoming challenges in the marketplace to be profitable while providing job opportunities. Springwell Trade and Investment is an African oil company that started forming partnerships with other independent oil companies in Africa and the rest of the globe. The business primarily focuses on the supply of petrol, diesel, jet fuel, and crude oil throughout southern African countries. We sat down with Brian Rengasamy, founder and president of Springwell Trade and Investment, who gave us insight on this proudly African business.
I had a dream that I was leading up an oil company in the very lucrative oil and gas sector. And as word would have it, the dream would have it, I'm today living the dream. The reasons why the oil and gas sector for Africa and Africanism is more, it's a sector that's been very untapped for local skills and local transformation. For too long we've been the consumers of the oil and gas, or within the oil and gas sector, of oil and gas products such as diesel and kerosene and IP, Jet A1, petroleum products, ULP, etc. And we haven't really tapped into more downstream specialized operations, getting into the midstream, and even getting into the exploration as local citizens. We've left it to foreign companies to do such. And that's when I grew the passion in looking at transformation in this particular sector.
Despite the passion, these African businesses also encounter various challenges in their respective spaces.
The challenges that we face is that you have multinational oil companies competing with the likes of Springwell. Where we fail, from time to time, is the fact that we've got to take financial risk. And in that, the financial institutions don't always have the appetite to deal with a company like myself because, number one, I don't have the balance sheet to constitute what the oil majors do.
Long-term growth in Africa is a seed that is planted by successful African businesses in the continent.
So what does it take to be a successful business, in Africa? I think it's driven through, if I may say, give you an equilibrium in terms of percentage. I think it takes 110% of passion, and the reasons why is I've trodden down this journey, for the last 6 odd years, and to that it is about, come back to that old saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step.
Brian strongly believes that promoting long-term African growth starts with buying African products.
Africans should start buying African products, because for too long we've been at the handing position, meaning we've been waiting out for handouts. And when I say handouts, I mean we've been at the consuming end of the handout and not at the delivering end of the handout. And I think the position, the times of has shown us through global warming and all the rest of it, to global downturn in the economies, etc., etc. It's about time now that we then take on this custodianship of becoming involved more on manufacturing our own products through our raw materials and raw resources that we have. And that's the position we've taken as Springwell, as a company born out of African soil.
Welcome back to Made in Africa, the variety show that promotes doing business in Africa.
You know, I'm so excited about this next segment. Viewers, you're going to see a classic grass to grace story that will absolutely blow your mind about the possibilities that exist in the marketplace here on this continent.
Wow, I'm really looking forward to this one.
Let's go there. How I made my first million. The journey continues as we profile the endeavors of a young lady from Uganda who was orphaned at a very early age. Grace's life seemed bearable until the unbelievable happened. Her older stepbrother evicted them from the family house in Limbuya, a suburb in Uganda. Out of the money saved from roasting maize, Grace rented a room, but the money was not enough to provide for her siblings. She then started roasting and selling chicken, which brought in more money to the family. This gave her the courage to work harder in order to survive.
Students used to make fun of me that chicken, it raised dust, and everyone wanted to find out what is this chicken all about. And we had a seminar organized by Youth Alive, and I told them I'm the chicken girl at school. They picked interest and they said, no, we should find a way of letting people know about your chicken business. And the journalist wrote about me. I got a bursary from senior 3 to senior 6.
Grace's bursaries ended in senior 6. She had no hope in going ahead with her studies. However, during her vacation, a good Samaritan offered to take her up to Sese Island, where she learned how to smoke fish. This new knowledge opened her eyes towards the entrepreneurship horizon. Grace discovered that most fish in Uganda's market were either deep fried or simply smoked, without any ingredient added. So she came up with an idea to make hers unique.
I locally smoke it, spice it, season it, and make it ready for eating. Practically, it looks like deep fried fish, but it's not put in oil. It is locally smoked and seasoned using firewood. You can eat it as a snack. You can also put it in gannets. You can also make it, put soup and just eat it the way it is. Well, my main customers of fish are the Rotarians around Kampala. They really buy the fish, they like the fish. They're the major ones. Then I also have individuals that I take to in their offices. I also have daycares where I supply powdered fish, powdered mukene.
In 2005, Grace graduated from Makerere University with a bachelor's degree in archives and record keeping, paying her tuition with proceeds from her fish business. All her siblings are now getting more education. Grace has now found a strong niche within the agribusiness value chain. She has discovered a competitive edge through her unique fish processing method, which provides strong nutritional value.
It has helped me buy land, construct a house. It has helped me also buy a car and then drive instead of moving on foot.
She registered a private company to supply her value-added fish. She has gone into other economic activities like piggery, poultry, tailoring, and selling of pancakes. Grace is also interested in empowering women in Uganda to become entrepreneurs and self-reliant. She strongly believes that if you support a woman, you have supported a nation. Grace's success in the fish business in Uganda has also enabled her to mentor and train other aspiring young people, especially women who want to go into agriculture to have a similar business of their own. Her activities have exposed her nationally and internationally, with opportunities to speak in several countries in Africa and internationally. She has had the opportunity of meeting several dignitaries such as Miss South Africa 2011, the President of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, together with the First Lady, the President of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, and the First Lady, the wife of Nelson Mandela, Graca Machel, the wife of the United States President, Michelle Obama, who gave her a hug. In 2009, she received a Woman Achiever of the Year award. In 2012, she received a World of Difference award. The sky is the limit for this young entrepreneur. She is planning to go and expand her fish business through accessing new markets. Grace has shown that no matter what you are in life, you can make a difference.
Oh, that was such a touching story,
Sure.
but with a happy ending.
Of course. Viewers, you know, if you want to be a millionaire, think like a millionaire. Grace's story has shown us that despite some of the challenges within the African marketplace, you can make it in business. With hard work, dedication, resilience, and perseverance, you can have the African dream.
Unfortunately, this is all we have time for on this episode of Made in Africa. But we will be back again at the same time next week for another exciting, interesting episode.
Please feel free to join the conversation on our social media platforms. The handles are there on the screen. I remain yours sincerely, Tagbo Agbazwe.
I also remain yours sincerely, Zanele Ntuli.
Let's build
the
African dream together. Peace.